Everybody, and you're very welcome to this evening's live where we're going to be discussing all things sleep with Tom Coleman, who is a sleep expert. So, as you know, we have launched Pharmacy 360 a number of weeks ago here at Marriage Pharmacy. It is a new concept in pharmacy. It's an integrative approach to health, where we're going to be discussing seven elements that we firmly believe at Mars are absolutely crucial for your health. So everything from sleep that we're going to be discussing tonight to nutrition, movement, the connections that you have with those around you, or indeed maybe with even your pets, people in your life, the environment, movement, and actually the connection that you have with yourself, which we talked about over the last couple of weeks. What is it? Why is it that we want to be healthy in the first place? And tonight, we're absolutely thrilled to be joined by Tom Coleman, who is a sleep expert. He's a qualified scientist and a sleep coach. And he actually already has done a podcast series with us, an episode on our Mars Matter podcast a couple of years ago that we did, talking all things sleep, and we're just so impressed by his knowledge in this field that we really wanted to have him on tonight on an Instagram live. So what is it why do we need sleep? That's the first thing I'm going to be asking Tom. What is it? What happens in our bodies as we do sleep? So many people got in contact and said, I've no problem falling asleep. It's actually staying asleep is my big issue. Lots of questions around children, lots of questions around parents, lots of questions around whenever you're in illness or going through perimenopause, menopause. So many different questions around this topic. But definitely for me, sleep is absolutely the foundation of good health. And you know yourself, when you don't get a good night's sleep the next day, you feel absolutely overwhelmed, a lot more anxious, and everything doesn't seem to go right. Whereas when you get a good night's sleep, you are definitely capable for so much more. So I am going to try and find Tom here now. Tom, I hope you're here. Hopefully you're going to tune in. I'm up in Tyrone, actually, my parents' house. So I'm hoping all the connection and everything's fine up here. Let's just see. Oh, hello, Tom.
There we go.
How are you? What part of the country are you in?
Good evening. I am in Athlone this evening.
All right, I'm in Tyrone. I'm up in my parents' house actually I came up to see my dad for Father's Day last night. So yeah, I just took the bike for the day. So I was hoping that the connection would be fine up here, because I'm in the mountains.
You're in the mountains.
Yeah. And suddenly
Brilliant.
dawned on me today, oh my God, what happens if the reception's not good at all? I can't talk to Tom. But anyway, listen, we're all grand. It's mad how you can do this from anywhere, isn't it? It's great.
Sure, look, it's great. I'm originally a Mayo man, and sometimes I'll be down in the wilds of Mayo with the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like a new form of anxiety, the technology. Isn't it just,
I know.
just hoping it all works out.
Yeah, I had two sessions, two different lives with Jerry Hussey over the last couple of weeks, about, this first concept that we were talking about, Pharmacy 360, why do you want to be healthy, finding your purpose,
Yeah.
what's your motivation? And couldn't get on live that night. And the week before, he had me on talking about gut health on his channel. Couldn't get on live that night. And he kept saying, are you in there? And I could hear him. Oh my God. Anyway, listen. My heart was going, but anyway, listen, come here, we're no bother tonight, no bother. So there you go. How's it Tyrone? It's not a bother. So listen, come here. Thank you so much for joining us. As saying, just as before you came on, we had a podcast series. I actually must link it up again. It was ages ago, pre-COVID even, and it was Caroline Forden who did the questions for us, and you very kindly did an episode on sleep and that, Tom. Do you remember? Yeah, and I might actually link up that episode again, but it was very, very, very powerful. And I remember listening to it a couple of times. I've shared it with a lot of friends of mine who struggle with sleep, and they got a huge amount out of it. So I'm delighted that you came and joined us tonight again. You really are a sleep expert, So, but listen, but I'm not going to introduce you. Could you maybe tell our followers, people who will be watching now live or watch back afterwards, because I know when we store this down the grid, loads of people watch it afterwards. But do you want to maybe just tell us who you are and how did you get into sleep? Like, how did you become an expert in sleep?
Interesting journey. I mean, I didn't set out to be an expert in sleep. I don't even like using that word. Do you know what I mean? I've gathered a lot of knowledge over my years, but like I'm a huge fan of science and the body and the brain and health. Like I've been described as many things, but the one thing I am is I'm a passionate health advocate. I'm all about how can we improve the small little steps that we take. It's the bigger picture.
Yes.
Everything you talk about, the 360 approach, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I just caught a little bit of what you said about movement and pets, and it all feeds in for me because I'm a
Yes.
health scientist.
Yeah.
I'm that kid who kind of goes, why? Why? Why is it
Why?
good for you? What and
Yeah.
I want to kind of dig in a bit more, and that's my curiosity. So that's how I
Yeah.
became involved. Really, I qualified as a health scientist about 16 years ago.
Yeah.
I was really very much into nutrition and food, and there was a great reception. People were receptive to that in Ireland.
Yeah.
And I got to work with sort of fairly high level teams and athletes and professionals
Okay.
pretty early,
Yeah.
because they seek the truth, they seek the answers. That's what I find.
Yeah.
They're looking for that edge,
Yeah. That
and
one
I ask,
centimeter or 1 millimeter, isn't that what
yeah,
they say? That's
that's
just
it.
that little distance. Yeah.
It's all of those 1%
Yeah.
that add up, and then I asked the question, well, I realized like my job is to try and get the athletes ready for performance, for training, for performance. And
Yeah.
so it was recovery. I was focusing on recovery. And I asked the question, I became obsessed with what has the biggest impact on recovery? And the
Okay.
answer came back as sleep, which was, I was like, what? I was really
Yeah.
surprised at this, um, because like you said, we just take it for granted. We don't think about it.
Yeah.
And then I started, and that was about 10 years ago. And from that, then I worked with technology which was designed by US military for their fighter pilots,
Okay.
which measured their sleep and fatigue, their,
Okay.
me- their mental fatigue. So I got my hands on that technology. And then I got to work with Irish rugby players. I got to work with very high level athletes in analyzing their sleep
Okay.
and the impact it had on their mental fatigue. So that, over the years, then I became passionate about sleep,
Uh-huh.
and I've worked in the corporate sector for a number of years. I was involved in research on sleep in 2019 with Professor Russell Foster from Oxford University.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work with shift workers. I work with An Garda Síochána on a regular basis, giving talks and information and guidance to them and the HSC and their nurses, and
Right.
just such a wide. And for 10 years now, I've helped individuals as well.
Okay.
You
So
know,
can you come to see you, Tom, like as a one-to-one if you were struggling with sleep? Like,
People do reach out to
yeah.
me, and the
Yeah.
trouble now is kind of I've such difficulty in finding the time for those one-to-ones, but
Okay.
I still do have clinics maybe once a month where people online. I will do consultations. I
Right.
have a full program online, which we can talk about later maybe. But I
Right.
do try. I do try to help people with their sleep. But look, that's given me great experience and insight over the years into
Yeah.
sleep issues. And the solution, and I sort of say this, my father said to me many years ago, I'm not worried about the problem you have, I'm worried about the solution,
Yeah.
so that you might apply. And people with sleep issues, we become desperate. They become desperate. They'll try anything,
Yeah.
and they'll take anything, and they'll, seek solutions. And so I like to assure people that no matter how bad it is, we can help,
You can
and
help.
that it
Yeah.
will get better and it can get better. And that's the first kind of thing I say to people.
Yeah. And you know what, Tom, like sometimes people are looking for like a nearly full 180. That's what I find,
Yeah,
even when people reach out to me about nutrition, because I've really tried over the last couple of years, since post-COVID actually,
yeah,
to really look at my, my movement and and my nutrition in particular. And that took me a good year to get that right, so
yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't go from 0 to 100. It's all
yes,
little incremental steps, isn't it, that you can build upon,
that's
and
right.
that you can sustain. Like, because I used to kind of like, for a month I'd be good and then I'd fall back, and a month, another bit month, whatever, but until I learned that, easy does it and
Yes,
build upon it, and make sure it's sustainable, before you get to the next step,
brilliant.
before you take on too much or whatever. So, but yeah, you're dead right. We're absolutely obsessed, Tom, I suppose, in Mars, about, obviously we're a pharmacy business. We see a lot of people coming
Yeah,
through the doors whenever they've got prescriptions and they're ill. But over I don't know, my 20 odd years, 30 nearly years, I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I qualified as a pharmacist. I really, really believe in proactive health. I
yes,
think if we can get these things beforehand, and if we can
mm-hmm.
apply these lifestyle changes early, and I'm not talking about, I turned 50 last
Mm-hmm.
year, and suddenly it was, oh my God, I'm on the earth a half a century. What do I need to do for
Mm-hmm.
the next half century? The earlier you get this,
Yeah,
the better you're setting yourself up for a
yes,
healthier 50s and 60s and
that's
so on
right.
and so forth. So I'm always trying to encourage people, even in their 20s, to start
Yes,
looking at this, even earlier if they can. My own kids are teenagers,
yeah,
but because if you look at these, and what we've done is these 7 elements, Tom, as you said, and sleep is one of those fundamental, as is nutrition and movement,
Yeah.
and the relationship with yourself, like why do you
Yes.
want to be healthy, your own core values, the relationship you have with other people, the connections you have, within the community or in your family, or
Yeah.
even with your pets,
Yeah.
the environment, because there's so many toxins in the
That's
environment, and
right.
there's so much, whatnot. So there's all these 7 elements, and we're shining a light in each one. And stress is the other big one, like
Of
Tom
course.
Gini macaroni, And I suppose stress and sleep are intertwined, aren't
Yeah.
they? Because
Oh,
if you're stressed, you can't
absolutely.
sleep, and if you're sleep, you feel stressed so much more. But listen, I'm delighted we're going to talk about sleep tonight, because I do firmly believe, years ago when we were growing up, I know, like I remember I'm from the north here, and so my mother used to always be admiring Maggie Thatcher, because she was like,
Yeah.
at that time,
Yeah.
a strong woman that,
Yes.
was pushing ahead or whatever. I think she was notorious for sleeping 3 hours a night or something, or 4 hours a
Yeah.
night. So back then we used to kind of applaud people who
That's
didn't prioritize their sleep or
right.
didn't get a lot of sleep. Whereas
That's right.
now the game has changed, hasn't it? The game has
The
changed, and
game
now
has
we're
changed. Yeah.
totally. And now we realize actually we need to be, applauding people who actually prioritize their sleep, and because that's great self-care. But
Mhm.
tell me, what happens when we do sleep, like Tom? Like, can you even explain
Yeah.
what's going on in our body? Because like we know wee babies sleep for hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours when they're growing, and we even say to teenagers you need even more sleep whenever you're a teenager because you're growing as well.
Correct.
But it's about growth, but it's also about repair,
That's right.
isn't it? It's about
That's
repair.
right.
So
So,
tell us what's
yeah,
going on in our body.
sleep is like nature is wise.
Yeah.
Nature is wise. Now, there is some argument in the scientific community about exactly why we sleep,
Yeah.
but let's keep it really simple. It's a state of adaptive inactivity. Okay.
Yes.
So there's a lot of adaptation going on, and like we've seen a lot of change in the environment. We don't like change,
Yeah.
to a certain degree, and the brain and the
Yeah.
body will always bring us back to that homeostasis, that normal state of functioning. So
Yeah.
so while we sleep, the body makes adaptations, and there's so much that happens because the science, that what we know about sleep has really advanced hugely in the last 100 years, and especially in the last 20 or 30 years.
Okay.
So just kind of briefly, if we kind of break it down into the physical adaptations that occur, we secrete a lot of growth hormone. About over
Yeah.
the 24-hour cycle, we secrete about 70% of the growth hormone while we're asleep. Now,
Right.
I'll throw a bit of context there for people who talk about cellular aging and skin repair and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Human growth hormone is like, the elixir of youth.
Well, that's
Like
it.
there's a reason we call it beauty sleep, because
Yeah.
we know if you're sleep deprived, it accelerates aging,
Okay.
right?
Okay. So this growth factor then, Tom, is not just helping us grow, it's actually helping
Oh,
repair our
oh yeah,
body
yeah,
as we sleep. And this is why you say we
yeah.
call it beauty sleep, because it is an anti-aging effect, if you
It
want to call
is.
it like that.
It is indeed
Right.
anti-aging. It is absolutely, and that is secreted during slow wave
Right.
sleep. So
Okay.
it's really important, the tissue repair, the muscle repair, but the cellular aging and how well your body can eliminate the free radicals and give you that good healthy looking skin. So that's
Okay.
one thing that happens. In
Okay.
terms of immunity, inflammation is mediated really through sleep. We want an immune system that's not overactive or underactive. People talk
Yes.
about boosting immunity, but we know that it's about an appropriate immune response. So we top up different types of immune cells. We make them while we sleep, and we restock. So
Okay.
we're fit. And like the proof of that is that, like, if you continually miss out on sleep, you'll get sick and you end up back
Get
in
sick.
bed, right?
Absolutely.
So
And that's why
that's another
they
thing.
say as well, Tom, isn't it, when you're poorly, when you've
Mm.
got a cold or a flu or whatever, to, lots of fluids and get to
Get to
bed,
bed.
lots of rest,
Get
because,
to bed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the
because
body
you're,
will force you. The body will put you to sleep.
yes,
I mean, if you ever notice that like when you're sick, like you seem to be able to sleep for 10 hours or
yeah,
so, that's the body going, like, pushing you into that adaptive inactivity,
okay,
and giving the immune system a chance in the background to get right.
okay,
Your hormones, the endocrine system balances out. Like, we know that it has a huge impact. Even a couple of nights, 1 or 2 nights poor sleep can really impact your hormones. So testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, ghrelin, the hunger hormone. So we know that ghrelin levels go up if you're sleep deprived. So the next day, you get cravings, and you're not craving salads, are you? You
Yeah,
know,
no,
you're
you're reaching for the carbs,
the
aren't you? You're
carbs,
reaching for the
the
chocolate. Yeah,
sugar, anything kind of yellow and deep
yeah,
fried, any of that kind of
yeah.
stuff. The body will crave the high energy, high
Mm-hmm.
yield food. Cortisol levels will elevate.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot going on physically.
Okay.
A lot of that is happening in deep sleep, and then psychologically, there's a huge amount going on. The lymphatic drainage, so the brain flushes itself out while you sleep with cerebral
Okay.
fluid. It flushes out the plaque buildup. Interesting that you mentioned Maggie Thatcher, and Winston Churchill and Ronald Reagan, because all those people
Yeah.
that's how they came out of the mold, sleeping 3 hours a night. That's how they came
Yeah.
out. Now, interestingly enough, they all developed Alzheimer's. I'm not saying that, but we have an amyloid plaque buildup that we need to flush out every day. So that happens. The brain then, while we dream, there's a lot happening, REM sleep.
Yeah.
And as the night progresses, we spend more and more time in the dream state. We embed positivity while we sleep. Isn't that amazing? We
That's
embed
amazing.
positive emotional experience. The brain goes, we need to keep this. This is good. It shapes our perception of reality. Isn't that
Wow.
incredible?
That's
And then
amazing.
we get rid of a stressful event. The brain says, we don't need this. Let's get rid of it.
So it's like a
And
filing going on,
yes,
like a filing cabinet. Keep
exactly.
this, put this
Yes.
away, keep this in memory. This we don't need. Get
Yeah.
rid of this, like type
Yeah.
thing.
We
Wow, it's
assimilate.
amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible because we need to learn
Yeah.
from the day. There's too much information for us to retain and to keep every day. So the brain goes, right, what have we gone through today emotionally? Let's go through this file and decide what do we
Right.
need to assimilate into the library and keep this in part of our subconscious learning experience, and what do we need to get rid of that's not useful. As I say, it's like
Wow.
cleaning out your
Right.
fridge. What do I keep? What do I throw
Right.
away? What needs a good scrub? All of this is happening while we
When you
sleep.
sleep. Wow.
So,
Right.
and we
Okay.
know
And
we
it's
feel
so
better.
interesting. Right, say again.
We know we feel better the next day about a
Oh,
problem.
definitely. Yeah,
Sleep on it.
definitely.
Sleep on it
Yeah.
and you'll find the solution.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about this plaque buildup, Tom, because I was at we sponsor St. John's Ballantyre, the Camogie Club,
Yes.
and I was up at the community centre one night, and they had a gentleman. His name escapes me now. There's the brain fog now, Tom. I need to talk to you about crime, and I'm full of brain fog.
Okay.
But his name escapes me. But he's like a consultant in Telehospital,
Mhm.
a gentleman from Cork. Somebody might know him on here, but he specialized in geriatrics
Yeah.
and in stroke, and he was talking about stroke. He was talking
Mhm.
about Alzheimer's. He was talking about
Mm.
dementia, and there was loads of questions,
Yeah.
obviously, from people who were there that night. And he was explaining exactly what happens when we
Mm.
sleep. This plaque buildup
That's right.
clears it completely,
Correct.
to stop the possibility of then developing these
Yeah.
conditions. And he explained it. The way he explained it was just really brilliant. That if you just don't get enough sleep, this plaque keeps building up and building
Build
up,
up.
and
That's
that's
right.
what's going to reduce the oxygen to your brain, and you end up
Yeah.
developing these. But I tell you
Yeah.
what, after that talk that night, if you didn't prioritize your sleep, it seems to be like the number one thing in
Yeah.
terms that we can do for ourselves proactively to
Yeah.
prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and the likes,
Yeah.
because of this clear out of this plaque. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it is. I mean, there's a very clear link there between neurodegenerative disease and sleep, and we've known this for quite some time. And there's a great body of research around it, you
Yeah.
know. And the other interesting thing, and I think you said about like connection and our self perception and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
that really contributes as well. There's a very famous study, the Nun study. I think it was over 500 nuns gave their bodies to science, and all 500 had some degree of plaque buildup in the brain, but none of them developed Alzheimer's. Isn't that just fascinating? And the reason they didn't
Wow.
develop Alzheimer's was because community, they all lived in a tight knit community,
Yeah.
and they had purpose. They taught and they had this community. So that
Wow.
connection and purpose was, and we know again, protective for the brain against Alzheimer's, even with the plaque buildup. So there's, for
Wow.
people out there, it's about having that sense of purpose and that sense of connection.
Yeah. Well, do you know who was it? It was another talk, Tom, and there was a guy talking about the Harvard study. Do you know about the studies going on,
That's right.
multi-generational,
I know it.
where they,
Yes.
yeah, do
The
you know
nurses
this
study.
story? Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
where they're studying like a group of guys that were going through Harvard at the time. I'm right in saying that, and then studying other people within the community in Boston at that time as well. And they've studied them through all the generations, like great grandfathers now, and they're still going. And the biggest contribution to people living longer and living healthier and happier lives was connection.
Yeah.
You know, whether you were connected to, you know, your family, whether you were involved in community activities, whether you know, people with pets or whatever, connection seemed to be the one thing that they've been able to pencil together throughout all of this that actually prevented them from getting serious illness, which I just thought was mind-blowing. So that goes back to like what you're saying about the nuns and the
The
sense of
non-study.
community that they have.
Yeah, I think see what I've witnessed, what I've seen over the last number of years, and I'd be of a similar generation to yourself, and it's like we've disconnected from the things that protect our health, like nature and our each other. You know, we're kind of living this we're taking advantage of the hyper-connected world now through spreading the word of what we do. Is kind of promoting positive proactive activity that will protect your health at, you know, very low cost, or, you know, virtually no cost really, you know. But like, we've removed ourselves from other people, and as I say, you know, if the doorbell goes now, people think it's like the TV inspector, you know, or like the TV license man,
the neighbors coming.
They get such a shock, you know. As a kind of social experiment, I've committed to calling to 10 of my friends unannounced, just rock up at the house and go, I'm here, hey, let's sit down, and, you know, and we need to do more of that, and we need to connect more, like, with our environment. You know, like you said, the environment is huge.
Huge, yeah. I think that's it. And people going out in nature, like it was a big thing. I know us growing up here in the north, like there wasn't that many people with TVs at the time. Like my mum's generation, and you used to call on your kieli, is what they called it. So you could just go around the house with like people bake whatever, and they would take, you know, that some of the supplies. They would bake for their own family, but then they would bake, you know, buns or scones or whatever for the neighbours, and they would just call around on whatever evening, and they'd go on their ceilidh, and they'd bring, you know, whatever, and sit and have a cup of tea and a slice of scone bread. And like, again, you know, that sense of community, it's such a shame that we're, you know, that's not happening today. We did see some of it during COVID, whenever you started getting to know your neighbours and everybody again, and people shopping local and everything. But it's just so important. It is so important, isn't it? It really is, you know.
It is, yeah. I get people to question the consumption. What are we consuming? What are you consuming on a day? People come to me with sleep problems, and we talk about all these things. We talk about their habits through the day, you know, because as a sleep coach, I don't go into the bedroom at night saying, you're doing great there, keep sleeping. You know?
That would be a bit creepy night out.
Yeah, they don't like it when I do that. So So what I do is I look at the day, I look at everything you do throughout the day. And you know, one of those things is connection and outside activity, and the food you're eating, and exercise and movement and light, and all of this informs the quality of your sleep and your ability then to maintain sleep as well, because that's huge.
So tell us then, Tom, what happens when we sleep? You talked about their you know, we go into these sleep cycles. Can you explain that a little bit just to people, so that, because we go through multiple cycles as we sleep, don't we? Yeah. Would you explain the different stages of that and what is happening in each of those stages? Would you mind?
So generally, sleep is not one continuous event. It's something that we sleep in cycles or blocks of 90 minutes, about 90 minutes. So you know, if I talk to people about sleep, they'll always talk about hours, but like, I want you to start thinking now in cycles of 90 minutes. So, you know, 3 hours, 4.5 hours, 6 hours, 7.5 hours. That's the first thing to say. What happens? We go through various stages of sleep. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3. You know, that's changed over the last number of years. But stage 1 sleep is a very light stage. It's the transition into sleep. Really, stage 1. It's only about 5 minutes. Some people don't realize they're in stage 1 sleep. You know, we drift away. We go into that. It's called a hypnagogic state. It's like daydreaming. It's one of the tricks to get to sleep, is we can start to kind of daydream if we can, and that brings us to sleep. And then we go to stage 2. In stage 2, the breathing slows down, the heart rate drops, blood pressure drops, and we're getting ready to go into the deeper phases of sleep. Stage 3, 4 sleep, and all of the first 3 or 4 stages are non-REM sleep. Okay. Non-REM.
Okay.
So rapid eye movement, non-REM, non-dreaming. Okay. Stage 3 sleep is the slow wave, deep sleep, and that's where most of the physical repairs are happening in that deep state. Now, it takes a little while to get into that deep state.
Okay.
And then at the end of the 90 minutes,
Yeah.
we dream for various. The first 90-minute cycle, we only dream for 5 minutes.
Okay.
By the time we reach the last cycle, we're dreaming for an hour.
Oh,
So
so it
each,
builds up. The
yeah,
REM builds up.
each
Okay.
cycle is different. Each 90-minute cycle is different. So for the first 2 or 3 cycles, we're spending a lot more time in deep sleep, and as the night goes on, the sleep is getting lighter. We're spending a lot more time in lighter sleep as the night progresses. So we're actually more likely to wake up. Okay, so that's why that's one reason why we experience wake episodes. Okay, the psychological repair and the cognitive filing is happening in light sleep. So don't undervalue light sleep.
Okay.
People have this perception that it's only the deep sleep that counts, or that's good. No. It's
Okay.
the light sleep is very valuable to you. Again, nature is wise. Nature knows what we're doing. The brain regulates then how much time you spend in each. If you've missed out on deep sleep the next night, your brain will hold you in deep sleep slightly longer to try and make,
Okay.
yeah. So,
So
don't,
even though, because like there was loads of followers' questions saying about that, I seem to always wake up. I'm in a light sleep. I'm not getting into deep sleep. But that you're not to be concerned about that, is what I'm hearing from you. Then.
no, I mean,
Okay.
it's like one of the key mechanisms that pushes you to sleep is sleep pressure.
Okay.
So sleep pressure is a chemical called adenosine. And you
Okay.
might know adenosine
Yeah.
it's actually a heart medication. And it actually, one of the side effects of adenosine is an impending sense of doom. So the more tired you get, right, this adenosine builds up, the sleep pressure builds up. If I keep you awake for 36 hours, you'd have a huge amount of sleep pressure trying to tilt you into sleep. And then you wake up in the morning, you feel groggy. That's adenosine, right? That's the sleep pressure there. So as you're sleeping, then the sleep pressure is lowering in the brain. The sleep pressure is lowering, your sleep cycles are getting lighter, and you have more of a tendency to wake up. So waking up is not really a huge issue for me. Wake episodes for people. As you age, you tend to get worse at sleeping, and along with many other things. But essentially, you're more likely to have wake episodes as you age for various reasons. But it's just getting back to sleep again. Then now, here's the thing: if you wake up after two or three cycles, you're going to say, "Oh, I was having a lovely deep sleep, and I know I won't get the same." Well, you won't get the same sleep because you've had most of your deep sleep for the night.
Okay.
So again, and you know what? We're not good at self-reporting. Self-reporting for sleep is only about 60% accurate. So
we think that we haven't
we
got a good
think
night's sleep,
like we
but
might,
actually,
yeah, that might be the
okay.
perception that,
Okay.
oh, I'm such a light sleeper, I'm such a poor sleeper. Like I had one gentleman that I assessed one time. He said to me, "I'm very restless all night. I'm very restless. I can't sleep." I put a
Yeah.
sleep. I put the gold standard of sleep trackers on him. I knew it was exceptionally accurate,
Yeah.
and he had some of the best sleep I've ever seen. But the half an hour before he woke up, he was restless, and his perception was that was the whole
That's
night.
all. Okay,
Yeah,
that he could only recall that, so he
yeah,
thought his whole sleep. Right. Okay. So
right.
I'm hearing then that okay, if we are a light sleeper and we wake up through the night, we're not to be concerned about that because I think people get very anxious
Should be.
about this,
Yeah,
don't they? And then this anxiety then plays out, and then they can't get back to sleep
correct.
again. A lot of people got in contact to say, "Tell me how I have no problem falling asleep. I can
Yeah,
stay asleep. Maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. People were even saying 6 hours.
yeah,
Even people were saying to me, but then I can't get back to sleep. But
yeah,
that's okay because your body is telling you you've had enough deep sleep, and now it's time for light sleep.
yeah. So
Um,
that's
and
right.
different things happen in light sleep. You're saying this filing of good
Yeah,
memories and whatnot happens then, so not to be concerned about
yeah.
that. Am I right in
Yeah,
saying
oh
that?
no, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
like during the REM, like you have a virtual reality simulator what the brain is essentially doing is it's practicing the stresses and threats. A stress in your real life is like a threat, right? It's a threat to
Okay.
your whatever, your emotional security, your financial security. So at night, what your brain is doing, it's simulating you dealing with this threat, and there's no
Okay.
real life consequences if you mess up in a dream.
Okay.
So that's what it's doing. And what that does for you is it gives you a subconscious reassurance that you can handle the problem. Okay. So that That's one of the things that dreaming does, and that's again occurring in light sleep. So you wake up and you wake up, and the first thing is don't be giving out to yourself that, oh, I'm awake again. I always wake up at this time, and sometimes we can inadvertently train the brain to wake up. The brain loves patterns. So if you inadvertently wake up a couple of times, the brain goes, oh, I know, I'll wake up again at this time.
Right. Okay.
So don't worry about that, right?
Okay.
Don't check the time. Okay. I asked this to groups. How do you know the time? Because what do you do? You grab the phone and you start pressing the button.
And the next thing,
I'm awake.
you're checking something. Yeah.
And I had a woman. I said, "How do you know the time?" And this woman said to me one time, "Well, I elbowed the husband and say, what time is it?" So
you just woke him up too.
So please don't elbow anyone, right?
But I know, like just what you said earlier there, though, Tom. I know my own husband. He would say to me, "Oh, I didn't sleep a wink last night," but I'm in beside him in the bed, and I go, "Jesus, he never stirred all night." Like, but that perception,
yes,
maybe because his last half hour or whatever
correct,
has been restless. He's thinking the whole night has been restless, but I know
yeah,
being in beside him is not the
yeah.
case.
Yeah. It's like those people who snore and they say, "No, I didn't sleep all night," and you're like, "Well, you're snoring for an hour and a half tells me otherwise," So yeah,
Right.
self-reporting is not very accurate. Now, here's the key thing here: focus on relaxation. Because I can tell you, Una, from working for 10 years, the more people focus on, I have to fall back asleep, I have to get sleep,
Yeah.
the more elusive it becomes. Because if you stress about it, cortisol levels go up,
Well, yeah.
and it's going to interfere with sleep. Now, maybe nighttime secretion of cortisol is why you're waking up anyway. Because
why would that be, Tom? Why would you be releasing cortisol as you sleep?
Because what happens with really all hormones, it's not, cortisol levels are highest in the morning, right?
Yes.
But there's this cyclical production or release, and it lowers right down in the evening time at night time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop altogether.
Okay.
And sometimes what happens is, we have a meeting tomorrow, it's a really important meeting, I'm going on a flight tomorrow. What happens?
You're starting to think about that, and you're worried about not waking up.
It's very sensitive. Now, here's the thing about cortisol. It's like a shower. When you go into a shower and it's too hot, then you turn it down. And then it takes a few seconds, and then it's too cold, and then you turn it up again. So cortisol is like that. It takes a little bit of time to adjust. So what I'm saying is be mindful about what gives you stress, or what kind of messages you're giving yourself at night.
Okay.
Because that can influence your sleep. And even exercise too late, certain types of exercise too late, worrying about problems, that can cause nighttime secretion of cortisol. Food can help with that. Certain foods can help lower. Exercise will help lower nighttime secretion of cortisol. So, like, why are we waking up? It could be temperature. Okay. It could be perimenopause or menopause, the hormonal impact. Those vasomotor symptoms, that could be another reason. If you haven't wound down properly. So I mean, it's hugely common that people go to bed wired, exhausted, tired.
Yeah. So talk to us about that good sleep hygiene pattern.
Yeah.
Then, Tom, like if it was golden textbook, what would you be saying? What should we be doing for, I don't know, if it's an hour before or 2 hours, maybe it's 3 hours before. What to get into a good sleeping pattern for anybody who's struggling with that?
Yeah.
What's textbook? What would you be recommending?
Like, here's the thing. As I say to people, your sleep routine starts when you get up in the morning,
Right. Okay.
Because we're complex creatures, and it's like, people sometimes arrive to the sleep like, oh my God, what a day, I survived the day, oh thank God. And they're completely wound up emotionally, cognitively, the chemicals in their body, the hormones in their body so those take a lot of time. So what I would say to people is this: it starts by getting outside. Light is the most powerful driver of circadian rhythm, of timing, of melatonin secretion. All of those things are informed by light.
Okay.
So get outside a few times a day, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes. Una, you mentioned earlier when you were growing up. When we were growing up, it was out, get out, out. And then as I said to people, what if you're outside all day, you sleep like a baby. And what did your mother tell you that was? The fresh air. Get out into that fresh air. Yeah. Like, we were ordered outside, and my mother would be out in the evening in the summer shouting for us, when it was getting dark, to come in.
Yeah.
Lord above, we had no problem sleeping. And I can
No.
tell you this, if I get someone, my last line, if everything else fails, is go out into the garden and spend all day digging and working outside, and you'll have no problems sleeping. So exercise, and this is why I
Exercise.
love the 360. I
Okay.
love the 360, right? Because it's exercise, it's outside, it's light.
Yeah.
And then think about the day in kind of two blocks. Think about your active phase of the day, the first 8 to 10 hours or whatever. And then
Yeah.
think about the unwinding. Okay,
Okay.
the disconnection, and that's not the 10 minutes before sleep. That's the couple of hours. I'm going to eat my food in the evening time,
Yeah.
have a good meal. That can really help. A
Yeah.
warm shower. It causes a rebound cooling effect in the body.
Okay.
So the core body temperature changes over 24 hours. It reaches its peak at 5 p.m. and that's why it's a good time to exercise.
Okay.
And then you need to lower it by 1 to 2 degrees to achieve sleep. So
Okay.
a warm shower is actually telling the body it's hot, so cool down. So the body starts to
Cool
really cool
down
quicker.
when you get out of it. So a hot
Yeah,
bath, the same thing then,
yeah,
Tom.
a
This
hot
is why
bath. Yeah,
baths, yeah.
because think about it. What happens is the body recognizes the heat. It pushes blood out to the core, or no, sorry,
Extremities.
the extremities
Yeah.
to cool. So your body goes, we need to cool down here. We're too hot. So that will help with
Okay.
sleep. And then the technology, huge. Stress management. The same systems that control stress control sleep.
Okay, okay,
It's
right, okay. So when you're
you
wired
know,
up and you have loads of
yeah,
cortisol pumping and adrenaline pumping in
yeah,
your body, there's no, and your heart is going and your breathing's
yeah.
rapid, you're not going to be sleeping then. So
You're
you've
not going
got
to be
to,
sleeping.
this is
It's
why
yeah.
stress and sleep is so intertwined, isn't it? You
Yeah,
know?
it's the nervous system.
Yeah,
It's the autonomic nervous system. It's fight or flight, rest and digest. Those two
yes,
systems. There's nobody coming to me, Una, saying I'm too relaxed.
yeah, yeah,
Society, we're wound up. We're on the go. We're connected. We're too. There's too much psychological, psychogenic stress going on. And
okay.
and so and we kind of think our way out of the problem at 11 or 12 o'clock at night.
And so how
You know.
how do you like what do you say to your clients then, Tom, in terms of like if you have a lot of stress in
Yeah.
your life, maybe it's at work, maybe it's you're
Yeah.
caring for parents, maybe it's children, maybe it's a bit of
Yeah.
everything, really.
Yeah, and it
We've a
is. I
lot
mean,
of
isn't it
stress now.
just? Isn't
Yeah,
life demanding for all of us now? It really is.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
you
So
know,
what do you advise in terms
yeah.
of trying to de-stress in order to enable a better night's sleep?
So,
What do you recommend?
your toolkit is exercise during the day, even if it's a 10 or 15 minute walk.
Right.
Like you said it earlier, Una, you're absolutely correct. It's only these small little changes. Like
Yeah.
if you're failing, lower the bar. Like here's the mechanism. And this is why I love the science, right? So when we walk, we're in forward motion and we're scanning our environment left to right for danger. It used to be the animals or whatever. Like if a big dog jumps out when you're going for a walk or a jog, you're going to stop because
Yeah.
the feedback is it's no longer safe to move forward. So if you're walking for even for 10 minutes, the feedback to the brain is it's safe to move forward, and that lowers anxiety and stress in the threat detection center of the brain, and that's really
Okay.
beneficial for you. And that was the lady who discovered that invented EMDR therapy. It's used today to treat post-traumatic stress. So
Okay.
exercise is really kind of one of in your toolkit. Breath work, breathing. What I talked about the calming response. Like we all know the stress response. The calm response is the fastest scientific method to reduce stress. The double inhale through the nose,
Mhm.
to breathe out. Children do it when they cry.
Oh, yeah. So two breaths through the nose.
Double inhale, and that works
Okay.
every single time. It's the
Okay.
fastest way to reduce stress. So, like, and then I would say to people, you know, unload the day. A journal is a very useful thing to have by your bed, because
Get all the
you know
thoughts out of your head and onto
Get
the paper.
yeah, and take a bit of worry away from tomorrow, because often we're like, sleep is about letting go. It's the
Okay.
ultimate act of letting go, right? So we have to let go of the problems. We have to let go of what I didn't get done. We have to let go of what I should have got done. We have to let go of all that. So one of the things you can do is write down, okay, the three most important things, or two or three things I have to remember to do tomorrow. Don't think that you have to get everything out, but just write a couple of things. The other really interesting thing here, anxiety. Okay, so you spoke about the self, the relationship with self, right? Now, one of the world's leading experts on anxiety is a guy called Dr. Paul Coik, and he's done this with 300,000 people. That's a huge sample size, right? And the exercises, sorry.
That's huge. That's a huge sample size.
Yeah, it's huge. It's not a few people. So what he does is he gets people to write one question each night, ask themselves this: what did you do today that was good for you? And if you write the answer to that down for 10 minutes each night, after 3 weeks, your anxiety levels fall away. The same time, your pharmacist now, 3 weeks it takes medication, 3 weeks it takes exercise, and 3 weeks it takes this. So I think that decompression of the brain, that calming is really important to write it. These are really practical things that people can do. They can do some breath work, they can write a little bit, and they can get into bed then and do a conscious relaxation to say, right, I'm going to start with my toes now. I'm going to let go of the tension, become aware of the toes, and that conscious relaxation, work their way all the way up to the body, is an amazing
like a body
practice.
Scan now, Tom. Like a body scan.
A body scan, yeah. And there's a lot of research, again, US military, for example, they train all their new recruits this body scan, and they report a 98% success rate after 6 weeks. So,
so
and not once.
Super conscious. Just for anybody who doesn't know what a body scan is, Tom, do you want to explain it? So it's just like starting at your toes, being conscious of your toes, throwing your awareness to your toes, and then just working.
Yeah,
well, that's how I've been taught. But you explain it. You know more about.
Yeah, sure, that's it. I mean, you can start with your head or your toes, and then you feel them. You can even, some people, what they do is in order sometimes to be aware of it, they can tense and then let go, and it can maybe even help relax a bit more if they do some of that. But like, even if you're lying in bed, so I'm aware of my toes, wiggle your toes, let go of all the tension in your toes. Toes are completely relaxed. I feel my calf muscles on the bed. Let go of any tension there, and you work your way up through your body, your hips, your lower back, your shoulders, your neck, your face, your jaw, your eyes, everything, and then your mind. And here's the thing for the racing mind, right? Nobody's going to retrain that mind, only you, okay? And you can instruct your mind to calm down. You can say, it's okay, I understand. I know we get all this stuff done, and then imagine the waves crashing or whatever. And that's an exceptionally useful exercise, because people mistake scrolling on their phone for relaxation.
Oh yeah, no. Sure, it's not. Sure, it's just a trigger, isn't it,
It
Tom?
is.
Sure, you're seeing things and you're comparing yourself and you whatever, and that's just triggering you. It's just increasing your cortisol, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's tapping into that dopaminergic brain, which cortisol is usually secreted with dopamine. So it's like and I think that it's just incredible. So all of those things combined, over a few weeks,
make a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. Well, I mean, the cortisol levels will just start to, fall in line then. It'll fall in line then. Between the exercise, the light, the breath work, the conscious relaxation, and the journaling, and they don't take that much time. Like people say, if they struggle for time, I say, let me see your phone. We'd see how much screen time
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So, and then people often say to me, well, like you just said there about the exercise, but sometimes people hear exercise, you kind of think, oh, I have to do an hour in the gym, but it's not that at all. Even a 10-minute walk, as you say, moving forward, that's going to, you're scanning for safety. You now know you have this feedback loop to say things are safe. That's reducing your cortisol levels. You could do that for 2 or 3 nights. The next night the next evening you could be going for 15 minutes, and then you're building it up and you're building it up. So suddenly, within a couple of weeks, you could be going for half an hour, and that.
Yeah, I mean, we know the type of exercise that reduces nighttime cortisol secretion. Exercise intensity about 60%, and that's like a brisk walk. Okay, so a brisk walk will reduce nighttime secretion of cortisol. The other thing is something like high intensity exercise. Do that earlier in the day. Maybe that will help. I know that people struggle for time with exercise, but even you can go online now and get a 4-minute workout that you can do in your house.
Absolutely.
On a break.
Yeah,
and
with two
that's look,
cans of tomato soup or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. You don't
It
need
all
even to
counts.
go and buy the dumbbells or anything. People have been
Yeah,
so creative about all of this. And exactly, there's so many people now doing these 10-minute workouts or
yeah,
whatever, so you can actually just do it in your own house. Okay, so we're hearing about the movement then, Tom. And I'm going to call movement instead of exercise because sometimes the
brilliant,
whole exercise thing for me used to
brilliant.
be a real trigger. I used to kind of think, oh, I have to put the leotard or something on or whatever. Like I'm not going to a gym or whatever. So movement, reducing your cortisol, that double breath. Do that again, Tom, to we get to
So
practice that again.
to double
Yeah.
in here,
Right. So
go
double
double
inhale
inhale,
in. And how
extend the
many
exhale.
times do you need to do that,
I
Tom, to take down your
Do you know
cortisol
what,
levels?
Una? I like. I'm a big fan of this. I would kind of do this for maybe 3 minutes, like a couple of times a day. You can do
Oh, you
this.
didn't do it during the day,
Oh yeah,
like
you
to
can do
kind of reduce
because like
cortisol.
the
Okay.
the nervous system is like that ladder that starts to accumulate. Like we're now nice and we're somewhere in between relaxed and alert. We're kind of in that nice area. But like as we get stressed out, as someone cuts us off in traffic, as we're late, as we have to get the report done, as we're checked, we can creep up on that ladder. And
Yeah.
by the time we have to come back down, it's a long way down. But if we do the breath work during the day, so we can put ourselves
Okay.
down in that nervous system, and we can be in a much calmer place generally. So that breath work is really good. Now you can do the box breathing, the military do as well. You can do like there's lots
Yeah.
of different types of breath work that you can do. Your breathing is connected to your nervous system,
Explain the
and
box
that
one, Tom, for anybody who might want to be wondering what that is.
the box breathing is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold for 4 seconds. You can do that's the strict box
The whole.
breathing, okay?
Right.
But then you can do like 3 seconds, 6 seconds, 3 seconds, 6 seconds, or whatever. Anything that extends the exhale longer than the inhale is kind
That's
of
the key.
calming and relaxing.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the key.
yeah,
Exhale for longer than you're
yes.
inhaling. Yeah.
Exhale for
Okay.
longer, and
So
and,
we
and
can.
what that does is it pushes the diaphragm up into your thoracic cavity. It compresses blood flow in the heart. It tells the brain we need to calm down. And that's the physiology of exactly how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a lovely, lovely gentleman. He's a psychiatrist. He comes into us in Bag Street just to collect his own prescription. And he always says to me that, we always have a chat anytime I bump into him about, stress and just the pressures of day-to-day life or whatever. And he has always said to me that deep breathing is better than any medication.
Oh yeah.
And that he's, especially for teenagers, he's always like, very reluctant to give medication to
Mm.
teenagers for anxiety and so on, and teaches them as a psychiatrist about deep breathing and the power of it at
Yeah.
taking down your anxiety
Yeah.
levels. So I think it's something, it's so easy, and what I find, Tom, is it's so empowering to know that we can do this ourselves. Is it within our
Yes.
own control? And
Yes.
as you say, during the day you can be sitting in traffic, it could be when you go into the bathroom, it could be, you can layer it on top of something else you're already doing, so it's not
Right.
another activity. So you could be
That's
doing
right.
something, you could be washing the dishes
Yeah.
and doing it when you're washing the dishes. You could
Yeah.
be doing, so you could be doing
Yes.
something else and doing this at the same time.
Yeah.
So for anybody who maybe, I've never seen that double inhale in,
Yeah.
but that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
You're dead right. The kids do that whenever they're
Yeah.
trying
They
to
do. Yeah.
calm down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, or the box breathing, or whatever deep breathing. So very good. Now, Tom, there's been a lot of people, whenever we put up the question box, right, the majority of people who asked any questions about this topic was, no problem falling
It's
asleep.
the way
It's the
waking up.
business of waking
Yeah.
up again and then
Yeah.
not being able to get back to sleep. Some people have even said here tonight, like sleepwalking, want to get onto sleepwalking. I don't know if you know anything about sleepwalking, but
Mhm.
just in terms of, I've had umpteen people perimenopause, menopause, because a lot of people
Yeah.
would follow me because I'm in that kind of era myself, Tom, dare I say it. So this business, changing hormones, I guess, is one thing.
Powerful.
A lot of people also, who have young children,
Mm.
just newborn children as well, and find that their sleep is completely
Yeah.
disturbed because they're waking up and the baby wakes up. How can we, if we wake up during the night, what's your best advice to try and get back to sleep again? And it's very interesting that you said at the beginning, if you start worrying about oh, I'm not going to go back to sleep again. I'm not going to get,
Yeah.
you're not going to get back to sleep again. Sure,
No,
you're
you're
not.
not. You're going to drive
Yeah.
those chemicals up. So,
Okay.
so again, it's kind of look. It's the nature of the problem will inform the solution here. Like you mentioned, like brilliant examples there. Look, I've done all this work in sleep for years, you know, and then a child came along in my life, and I found myself walking around the bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, going, "Look, you should be asleep, little fella. I'm a sleep expert." And he laughing away at me, right? You know, and like life
making
happens, doesn't it?
making a fool out of you,
Oh,
Tom.
making a fool out of me, like, you know, me thinking I knew about sleep, and then he said, "I'll show you now." But thankfully now he's 5 and he's a brilliant sleeper and everything else now, and you know that's real practical stuff. So, I mean, like, look, for we can survive. That's the first thing,
Okay.
okay? If I know exactly what it feels like, it feels horrendous. You feel desperate. You feel like, oh, please, just please, like, please get me back to sleep. You know, I'm exhausted, tired. So I know what that feels like. But we can survive. Help each other out. Take turns. Even maybe even take 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
You know, let someone get some sleep, and you know the other person can be much better capable the next night, right? So
Right.
really important for perimenopause and menopause. It's a huge disruptor. One of the key things that disrupts there is the progesterone falls off a cliff. Progesterone is key. Part of the function of progesterone is relaxation. It even helps regulate our breathing, progesterone.
Yeah.
So when that just suddenly evaporates, then
Yeah.
it's like I know far too much about menopause. I know lots. I've learned lots. You know, I have a lot of females in my family.
Yeah.
You know, from all my sisters, my mother, my lovely sister-in-law, Farah, there, all those people. So what can you do if you wake up? Well, strategize for it. Have a little bottle of water frozen. I put it in the freezer and get a face cloth.
Yeah.
Have that ready. Have a well ventilated bedroom. Certain foods can help. Phytoestrogens can help. They bind to the estrogen receptors and they give you the same downstream effect without increasing estrogen in the body.
Okay.
So that
So,
can help.
like example what,
So
Tom?
foods, I mean, it's the same old foods that are good for cholesterol and everything else, and good
Yeah.
for heart and good for brain health. It's the blueberries, it's the plant nutrients,
Okay.
leafy greens, nuts, seeds, berries, powerful foods that are high in phytoestrogens,
Okay.
and even other chemicals that even things like almonds have melatonin in them, and
No,
pistachios have a clinical dose of melatonin. So like the food ties
pistachios.
into it, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's right, yeah. So those are really good things. Now, in a general sense, if you do wake up, remember this: the sleep pressure is dropping, the sleep is getting lighter. You're
Yeah.
going to wake up at times. Don't give yourself a hard time. Now, what you need to do is train yourself to fall back asleep quickly. And what you need to do then is to build a bridge to sleep. Okay. Now, the biggest thing that will take over is the mind saying, "Oh God, I'm awake. I need to sleep. Tomorrow night, I have to do this." You know, we start to worry, or we start to project, or we
Okay.
start to. So what you need to do is give something to the mind to do. The cognitive chewing gum, I call it. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I love trekking in the mountains. I love going for a trek in the mountains. So what I do is I imagine myself um, going for a walk in the mountains. I imagine the trail, I imagine the boots, I imagine the backpack on me, the sun, the trees, the wind, the birds, start
Yeah.
walk. I start to picture this. And
So
that
you're you're
helps that,
you're envisaging that that's where you are and you're taking
yeah,
it all
that's
in.
right. I'm
Yeah.
building that bridge. That stage one sleep
Okay.
is the hypnagogic state. It's when the brain starts to do that daydreaming thing. So what you're
Yes.
doing is it's like fertilizer for that. Focus on relaxation, not sleep.
Okay.
If you focus on relaxation, and that can be the body scan, it can be the breath work, it can be counting your breath, whatever you choose. It can be listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
It can be
Okay.
listening is okay, because one of the other things that happen is brainwave activity must reduce to achieve sleep, and if there's visual stimuli, you won't do that. Won't happen. Okay.
But but
Um,
but listening is
listening
fine, Tom.
is fine, yeah, because
Okay.
yeah, it's you don't have the visual stimuli. If you have visual stimuli, the alpha blocks are cut, so basically you won't be able to fall asleep with your eyes open. You
Okay.
know, So yeah, listening is fine. It gives the brain something to, because if you don't give the brain something to do, like there's nothing worse than lying there trying to sleep
Yeah, because you're
and
thinking about
worrying
it then,
and
aren't you? You're
thinking about it,
focusing
going,
on,
God,
yeah,
I have a very busy day tomorrow. I have to fall
yeah,
asleep. There's so much to do, or
yeah.
so we have to build that bridge. We have to give the brain something else to do, and then the sleep comes, the sleep will flood in then,
Okay.
to it. And that takes practice with it. So don't think that, like
You're
I
going to get it
said
in one
to,
night, like,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like you wouldn't go to the gym once and say, oh, it didn't work. I went to the
yeah,
gym,
yeah, of
would you?
course.
You wouldn't eat
Yeah,
one meal and say, well, oh, it's not working. So
yeah.
why would you do that with sleep? So I really encourage people to
Stick at
zoom
it.
out with sleep, to zoom out and say, right,
Okay.
I'm going to do this for the next few nights and weeks. And when I do wake up, irrespective of the results, I'm going to practice this. And I guarantee you, because I've worked with people for years, I guarantee you it will work. You will shorten that time. You will start to become confident of, I can get back to sleep. I now have a strategy. You have a plan A and a plan B. I have a strategy to get back to sleep, and it will work.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay, that's really good advice. Focus on the relaxation, not the sleep then.
correct.
Take yourself, like you just explained there, with a backpack on, you're seeing the trees, you're seeing the sun, all of that, the heat in your skin.
Yeah,
You're relaxing, I
yeah,
suppose, yeah? Or whatever
yeah.
your happy place is, I
Yeah, it
guess,
could be,
Tom.
your holiday to Venice,
Yeah.
whatever your happy place, whatever. It could be childhood memories. It could be
Okay.
things like that, things that like are light enough, but you're giving your brain some little thing, some little path to follow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great advice. That's great advice. Can I just ask you a question? I'm just going to
sure.
come up to people ask questions just during this. I know people have asked me, will I save it down? Of course I'll save it down. We always save down the lives and then you can watch it back, no problem at all. But somebody was just asking there about that they have panic attacks, Tom, and I got a couple of this now in the questions as well. They're absolutely terrified to go to sleep because sleep then they're scared maybe perhaps
Mm.
of particular night terrors that they're
Yeah,
having, or
yeah,
I've had a couple of
yeah,
people get in contact with me about hearing voices
yeah,
when they sleep or
yeah,
absolute terrors. What advice do you give to people like who are afraid to go to sleep?
yeah. I mean, look, your brain will force you to sleep at some point.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, night terrors, that's a medical issue. That's different to nightmares.
yeah.
So night terrors are classified as a medical issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what happens in night terrors is this: when we dream in REM sleep, sometimes dreams go into other phases of sleep. They leak into other phases. So what's happening is the dreaming is leaking into your deep sleep.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they tend to happen. So what's the difference between night terrors and nightmares? How do you know the difference? Well, night terrors tend to happen earlier in the night. The person going through them might not remember them, but can move. When you're in REM sleep, you cannot move. You go to a state of paralysis. The
Oh,
body can't move. So
okay.
if that's not happening, then we know that the dreaming is happening in a different state, in a different
Okay.
stage, sorry, of sleep.
Okay.
So that's really important. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, the other thing that happens when you dream is we have no concept of time and space. It's completely, time is distorted, and sometimes if the dreams leak into stage one sleep, or we can wake up and be awake, and we can even think there's another person in the room. Um,
Right,
so,
okay.
and that's terrifying. Or the ceiling can crack. I've heard some horror stories about this, and that's night terrors. Now, how do we deal with night terrors or nightmares? Well, nightmares. If people are having very vivid nightmares, one of the things, an image rehearsal therapy that you do, that when you wake up, you change the ending of the dream for the night.
Okay.
Now,
Okay. So how do you
in
do that now, Tom? How do you do that?
so once you wake up, if you've had a horrible dream, say of a car crash or something like that,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, you change the ending in your mind. You go back to the dream and you go, right, at the end of this happens, and we don't crash and everything is okay. And you imagine that it's like as though you're removing the negative ending and you're putting in a new ending to the brain, and
Okay.
then your brain will kind of file it at that. So that's one thing. Scheduled awakenings is something else. So
Right.
look for the pattern of time of when it's happening, the nightmare, the night terror, and then what you can do is you can schedule an alarm to wake you up 15 minutes before. It's about maybe breaking
Right.
the pattern here. Okay, breaking the
Okay.
pattern. If it's night terrors, you will maybe consider talking to your GP. The other obvious things are stress reduction throughout the day. stress has a huge role to play in this. So stress, stimulants and sedatives, alcohol, all those things, cut them out. Learn relaxation techniques throughout the day and do them in the evening time. That conscious relaxation, that can help with night terrors as well, and indeed nightmares. And speak to your doctor about it as well. I mean, there's pharmacological interventions there that people can go down that route, but look at all of the options, I would say, for nightmares and night terrors. But that's the difference between nightmares and there's a few differences that people will find.
I didn't know that when you're in REM sleep you can't move at all. That you're
it's called, I think it's called atopia is the proper term for it. But it's interesting. The only muscles that can move are your eye muscles to move the REM, rapid eye movement, and the respiratory and the heart. But essentially, people will sleep paralysis. So people wake up. I think I seen one of the comments said people wake up and they can't move, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And that's to stop you acting out your dream, not being able to move. So if you're dreaming that you're fighting Mike Tyson, you're not going to be punching, you're not going to wake up with that. Yeah. So that's why the paralysis happens, the self-induced paralysis.
Isn't your body amazing? Isn't it amazing?
Oh, incredible.
It knows how to do this. Yeah. So that's this question here. What happens when you're trying to move with your body and you know that you're asleep, but you can't move? It's an awful feeling. I battle with it in the mind. So
that's the paralysis.
There's nothing you can do. That's the paralysis. You're meant to be like that.
Yeah, that's you, because sometimes the timing is out. Because what should happen is those connections should be, relit, and you should be able to move, and then you wake up. But sometimes what happens is you wake up and the connections aren't quite there yet, and then you feel like frozen, and then you go into a state of panic.
And you feel like you're absolutely I get it now. So somebody's asking, which stage do you move in your sleep? So basically the only stage that we don't move in is in REM sleep.
In REM sleep. Every other stage we can move. We can move
in.
Yeah.
And the game here is to try and get into REM sleep. Is it, Tom? Is it?
Don't forget that the brain will regulate how much REM you should be getting. And it will decide now I'll give you a percentage breakdown. So it's something like 25% of your sleep is spent in REM, 25% is spent in deep sleep, and the other 50% is spent in light sleep.
Right.
So your brain will know best how long to keep you in REM. Now, one of the things that alcohol does is it stops you going into REM. And delirium tremors that alcoholics get, it's their brain forcing them to dream while they're awake, because they're not getting the REM. Dreaming is crucial. We would die without dreaming. Right. We know that. So look, the brain will decide how long to keep you in either.
Okay, a few questions here, Tom, as well. How can we test our own sleep? How do we know how much sleep we're getting? How do we know if we're getting enough? How do we know if we need to get more? Somebody asked earlier about, do you use an Apple Watch? How can we test this? Can we test it ourselves?
So the tech, first of all, the tech isn't exceptionally accurate. It's pretty good at telling us if we're awake or asleep, but the accuracy level can really drop down when assessing deep sleep, light sleep, REM sleep, etc. So don't be a slave to the tech, number one. Okay. So one of the things that, in all the years I work with people, it's kind of like, I don't know, very few people say to me, I wake up and feel chirpy and happy and full of energy in the morning. About two people over the last 10 years have said that to me, right? We do feel tired in the morning, and that's the adenosine floating around the system. But how do you feel 45 minutes, an hour after getting up? How do you feel tired during the day? Like, these are indications that maybe I need more sleep, because one of the first things to get right in sleep is how much do I need, and that's personal. You know how much works well for you. Okay. So that's hugely important, to decide how much you need, and then, again, I'd focus on all of the actions through the day, and the sleep will take care of itself. Like, if you're managing your stress and you're active and you're not drinking too much coffee, and you're not scrolling at night, and you're not doing all these things, the brain will really regulate how much sleep you need. There are little influences that you can do, maybe to increase deep sleep or things like that, but look, the brain is wise. It will know how much you need.
Okay. And Tom, what about supplements? Like
Sure.
I often recommend magnesium. I don't know if you
Yeah,
recommend anything at all,
sure I do.
but
Yeah,
do you recommend anything to help with sleep at all? If there's something, because a lot of people were saying, that they maybe are taking sleeping tablets and they want to get off them. They
sure.
don't want to be relying on sleeping
Yeah,
tablets. And there is, I guess, a way to do that.
yeah,
And I'm actually
yes.
going to try and speak to a GP
Mhm.
uh, to do a little, piece on this.
Yeah,
When should you take sleeping tablets? When should you not? And if you want to get off
yeah,
them, can you do? And all of that type of stuff. But in terms of supplements, have you any advice, or is there anything that you've seen with all of your patients that works
yeah.
well over the years?
So, I mean, what I found, Una, is that some people respond much better to some things than others.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, I kind of say, look, there's a bit of a hierarchy there. Like, if you go to the doctor, your GP might, people look for melatonin. Someone just said melatonin
Some
there.
melatonin is good. Yeah.
So, well, the first thing to say about melatonin delays puberty in children. So be careful what you give your child with sleep,
Okay.
okay? It
Yeah.
delays puberty. Not many people know that. Melatonin is a short-term solution to sleep. Melatonin is concerned only with sleep onset. It will not keep you asleep, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
If you take melatonin at 2 o'clock in the morning, it resets your pineal gland. You'll only start to produce melatonin at 2 o'clock the next morning. So be careful with stuff like this, right?
Okay.
And some people go to the US and come back with a load of
Oh, I
melatonin.
know.
Not good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
I
in
mean,
Ireland, just for anybody who's wondering
yeah,
about the melatonin, you need a prescription and it's
you need a
unlicensed.
prescription.
And not
Yeah,
all GPs like prescribing it when it is unlicensed. So,
yeah,
it's not. Whereas in the US,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And it's on,
Lots of
it's
people.
on I mean, the checks there on the quality and the amount are very poor in the US. So you could be giving yourself, way too much.
Yeah.
Melatonin has a key role, other functions in human physiology. So, it's an antioxidant for unfertilized female eggs. So, we talked about why we sleep earlier on, Una, and
Yeah.
fertility is huge.
Huge.
Um,
Yeah.
so, like, be careful. So we have the sleeping tablets, which, I think Matthew Walker describes sleeping tablets as a very blunt instrument to knock
Yeah.
you out. It knocks systems out. It doesn't really, the quality suffers, right? So be careful. What I found work, like some herbal supplements work really
Yes.
well.
And
Talk
what's
to your GP before you take anything anyway. That's the first line, right?
okay?
So things like L-theanine,
Yes. Good.
really
Yeah.
excellent,
Yes.
200 to 400 milligrams,
Yes.
and they've been shown to help keep you asleep, okay?
Okay.
And
Nice. Okay.
also help with
Yeah.
anxiety. And
Yeah.
like, and there was a lot of talk there about CBD
Yes.
oil. Now, here's my experience, right? My experience is this. Some people it works excellent
Yeah.
for. Other people are like, I can't really feel anything. I like it, okay?
Yeah.
Like what the research says is it helps reduce anxiety and the sleep comes in then.
Okay.
So it has a secondary impact. So it's a positive thing. So I would look at those. I would look at a good magnesium glycinate,
Yes. Yes.
or threonate, biglycinate, not citrate. Citrate won't impact sleep. Okay,
Yeah.
there's lots of different forms, as you know, of
Yeah.
magnesium. So,
All different
so
salts, and I think people don't realize that neither, Tom, that
yeah,
different salts are better for
that's,
different things. So
that's right.
sometimes different salts, for example, for constipation, magnesium, a different salt can be used for that. Other people use it for muscle tension and muscle cramps, but for sleep,
Yeah,
I always and unfortunately we can't get magnesium 3 in it here, Tom.
yeah,
In Ireland, you can only get it in the States as well, but
yeah,
it's the smallest magnesium salt molecule, so it crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it is very good for sleep. But magnesium, basically, it is what I
yes,
often
that's right.
recommend. So
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah,
and you
that's
can
the
get
one.
that
Yeah,
in two forms. There's a liquid we do called by Zuki, where you mix in
yeah,
water, or you can take straight, or you can get in a capsule by Prismag, or
yes,
magnesium Zuki do a capsule as well. So
right.
that's the best one for sleep for
Yeah,
sure. The
yeah. I
because
would
isn't it the
recommend that one.
glycine? The glycine also helps with sleep. Isn't that why that
Yes,
was
that's right.
particularly good? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe vitamin D3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Take the vitamin D because it might be a little bit of a stimulant.
Okay.
Fine for teenagers as well. The magnesium. So I would maybe if you're looking at it now. Here's my strategy. Right,
Yeah.
is I have the threonate and the magnesium, and if it's in my locker, literally like in my locker in every sense that I
Yeah.
don't take it every night. But if I had a busy day and I have a big day tomorrow and I've had a lot going on with the 5-year-old or whatever else, and I think I need a good night. I really need a good night tonight. Then
Yeah.
I'll have a hot shower, a sleepy tea, and I'll take it. And it's
Yeah.
brilliant. I just would be careful of like, well, I need to take this every night to get the good sleep,
Yeah.
But I want to assure the people taking the sleeping tablets. I've worked with people in conjunction with their GP. I will add, that they've come off the sleeping tablets. That
Yeah.
you can retrain those systems to sleep. I've had clients who've had
Yeah.
trauma. Trauma has a profound effect on sleep and the brain.
Yeah.
Profound. And
Yeah.
and I've had clients who slept for 2 or 3 hours for 30 years, and we've improved. We've got them up to 5 or 6 hours through
Okay.
patience, through practice, through guidance
Small
and stuff
steps,
like that.
Tom.
Yes,
Small
steps,
steps. Yeah.
repeated.
Yeah.
So it will happen. Don't get too excited or too disappointed. It's an up and down journey.
Uh-huh.
So like you said it again earlier, you some days are good, some days are not. You
Yeah.
go up, you go down, but the overall trajectory, when you look at 6 months or a year, is
It's
this way,
it's
and
so
that's the way to
positive.
think about
Yeah. Okay. Somebody just asked what was the herb that you said for anxiety again?
it.
It was called L-theanine. Yeah.
L-theanine, yeah, it's an amino acid, so it won't have that detrimental effect. Be careful with sleep
Yeah.
aids. Be careful with
Yeah.
sleep.
Absolutely.
But Professor Russell Foster from Oxford, the head of neuroscience, has spoken about them.
Yeah.
So be careful about the solution and the long-term and the short-term solutions that we're using for sleep. But things like L-theanine and another compound, the apigenin, that's
Yeah.
been shown to be good as well.
Yes.
Apigenin we get from the chamomile flower. It's a
Yeah.
floral compound,
Yeah.
and the amazing thing is that it helps the chamomile flower deal with UV light. And light it's all kind of linked
Like
up. It's
that,
amazing.
it's just fantastic in nature how nature
Yeah,
has adapted
yeah.
these things. So where would you get L-theanine now? A Solgar do L-theanine, and also you can
Solgar,
get it.
Vir-
There's also a good blend by that
Viridian.
fabulous pharmacist. Which one did you say?
Well, I get one from Viridian. It's
Viridian.
L-theanine and lemon
Yes,
balm. I think is it Machnas do one as
yes,
well? Yeah, they
absolutely.
do
They
an
do one.
L-theanine.
And so does Orinor. It's by the fabulous farm. It's called Fabu.
Yeah.
Orinor
Oh,
has
that's right,
some
Fabio. Yeah,
magnesium in it. There's some magnesium, there's some L-theanine, there's ashwagandha
ashwagandha.
and
That's right.
chamomile and lemon balm in it.
Yeah,
So there's 5 things in that
yeah,
in a blend as well.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I look. The thing I would say to people is don't expect to lead an incredibly stressful, busy life and then throw a
no,
tablet into your mouth and expect that
no,
to
I
solve your
know.
sleep. But it's all of these things. It's a 360 approach again.
Yeah,
It's being active. It's eating the right food. It's like you mentioned something lovely there, right? Is the pet. Here's it. What we need to do is increase serotonin. That's how being outside helps sleep.
yeah,
Getting light increases serotonin. Serotonin is a precursor to melatonin.
that,
It's
that's
required to
right.
make melatonin,
Yeah,
right? So, how can we increase serotonin in the evening time? We can cuddle on the couch.
abs-
Here's something great to do, right? We can cuddle. Like most of the health stuff is like, it's really hard. Exercise or eat these. But here's like lovely stuff,
yeah.
right? Have a sauna, do some stretching, hug your partner,
Or hug your
cuddle your pet.
pet if you don't want to hug
Hug
your
your pet,
partner.
even your pet. It's like it increases serotonin. Isn't that great?
Absolutely. Sure, that's why
Yeah,
we give teddy bears and stuff, to kids whenever they're going to sleep
yes,
initially, because hugging the teddy bear, whatever, releases the serotonin, releases the feel good
correct. Yeah,
factors or whatever. So it's just having your own version of a teddy bear, isn't it?
that's
If
right.
it's a person, great, and if it's not a person, it can be a pet,
Yeah,
or get
yeah,
yourself
got
a
a
teddy
pet.
bear.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
What about motherword? A couple of people asked just, have we any experience of motherword? I don't, Tom, so I
I
have to
don't either. I don't
no,
either. I would,
no.
just double check on
Yeah,
if there's
yeah. I'm not
any other
sure
side
now.
effect or anything like that,
Yeah,
but I just be careful with certain things.
yeah,
But I generally the kind of the floral things tend to be quite good with very minimal side effects or anything like
yeah,
that. Like that's what I like about them. And in my experience, with clients, the L-theanine, the CBD, the
yeah.
magnesium, all those things work very well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, anything kind of like that herbal, so it's coming from nature, should be safe to take.
Yeah.
So listen, anybody who has any questions about anything specifically or didn't want to ask anything, live on here, in an open forum, you can send me a DM afterwards, and by all means, I'll try and answer. And if I don't have any experience, I'll certainly let you know, and then you can either speak to your GP or, to a health food store if it's something that's not found in pharmacy and is much found more in a health food store. But Tom, listen. to wrap up, I'm very conscious I've taken up so much of your time,
My
and I think whenever
pleasure.
you were talking to our Kieran, he was saying, you were saying that you can chat, I can chat too. So we can sit here to midnight, we get no sleep tonight at all. Tell me, if there was top 3 tips now, for all the years experience, you see people every single day about sleep, you talk about
Yeah,
sleep all the time, you lecture on
yeah.
sleep, you know, go into corporates and talk to people about sleep. If there was 3 top tips, right, for people who struggle with, you know, getting a good, what they deemed or their perspective as a good night's sleep, I suppose, or falling asleep if they're waking, you know, up during the night, what would your top 3 tips be, Tom?
Okay, my top 3 would have to be one, green time, green time instead of screen time.
Green time. Okay, so get out into nature.
Nature.
Is that what you mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Nature will heal all. Nature is fantastic, right? So green time instead of
Okay.
screen time.
Okay.
Number 2 is stress management. Now,
Okay.
stress
Yeah. That came
management,
out
you know,
over and over
we
tonight.
know the tools, and one of the symptoms, I talk about the symptoms or the currencies of time, energy, and presence. People think I've
Uh-huh.
no time, my energy's low, I'm not present. You know those people who are like, I'm listening to you, and they're scrolling at the same time. Those are symptoms of an underlying problem, right? So the stress, and we have the tools. So stress management, really hugely important,
Okay.
and ritual here. Let's talk about the routine or the ritual of that kind of half an hour or hour, and include the sleepy tea, the eye mask, the supplement, the bedroom environment, you know, the all that, and the wind down routine. So create your ritual and routine. So those are
That's
my
lovely.
3:
That's
the
lovely, Tom.
green time, the stress, and the ritual.
Okay. Green time. Do all you can to de-stress, find your thing in that, I guess, and
Yeah,
then the ritual, really prioritize the ritual. You
yeah.
could just get completely hooked on the ritual, couldn't you? I
Oh, you
loved what you
could, yeah.
said earlier as well, Tom. Like, if you know that you're waking up and that's you, you know, and you
Mm-hmm.
know at 4 o'clock in the morning you always wake up, and then you're thinking about getting back to sleep. That strategy that you talked
Mm-hmm.
about getting back to sleep, if it's perimenopause or menopause and you're
Yeah,
overheating, having, you know, ice water beside your bed, maybe a face cloth to cool
yeah,
you down, focusing on relaxation instead of trying to get, instead of sleep, you know,
yeah,
having that kind of strategy. That's really, I think that's really useful, Tom.
yeah. I think. Look, having a strategy, and then do you know what? You have an A plan and a B plan. And here's the thing I say to people: sometimes the best thing is to give up on sleep, to allow yourself that, to allow yourself to say, look, it's fine. I'll be grand. Sure, let me just do whatever. And sometimes when you completely give up, it actually happens then, right? You
You
can't kind
throw
of
in the
force it. But
towel, like
yeah, you
almost
know,
like.
the throw in the towel. Just say, because you know what? I've heard something recently that an hour in bed relaxing is the same as 20 minutes sleep. So it's still beneficial. Like relaxing in bed is still beneficial for you,
Okay.
you know. So don't give yourself a hard time. Don't
Go
give yourself
easy
a
on
hard
yourself. We are
time. Yeah.
so hard on ourselves every time. And it's
Oh,
like we
yeah.
get so wound up then because we
Yes.
think we should be doing this,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think it was really interesting what you said as well, that light sleep, just because you're in light
Yeah.
sleep, you know, we need to give ourselves a break. Other things are happening in light sleep that are not
Yes.
happening in REM.
That's
All
right.
this filing of memories and getting rid of other stuff or
Yeah.
whatever is all happening. So actually, like, maybe your body just knows that it needs more light sleep to
Yeah.
file all this
Well,
stuff or
here's
whatever.
the funny thing is that as we get older, nature has prioritized light sleep rather than deep sleep, because as we age, we spend actually less time in deep sleep and more time in light sleep. So nature is saying to us, you know, light sleep is more beneficial.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is, Tom?
The cognitive, the emotional, rather
Okay.
than the physical. I think it's kind of like all that physical stuff.
Uh-huh.
It just feels like a deeper level, you know, up until about the age of 30s to 40s, and
Yes.
then 30s to 40s, the focus then it's, you know, it's more time in the cognitive and the psychological and the spiritual, you might say, because
Okay.
sleep is complex. The
Okay.
social, there's, you know, there's emotional, there's all types of things are connected there. So
Okay.
that's probably why, in my estimation.
Okay. Okay. Very good. My mother is pointing something around the corner for me. She's opened the door. She's finding me in this rebound.
Fantastic.
She clearly finds that these are very useful for sleep remind. These are like a fish oil, Tom, to help. I don't know. Like, anyway, this is AKA my
There we go. I mean, look, find what works for you. Find
Really,
what
they
works for you.
obviously have helped her. Actually, these are really good. Remember, we were talking about that gentleman who was stopping the plaque build-up, who was
Yes.
talking about that and how sleep is so important for that. So he spoke that night a huge amount about fatty acids and about, fish
Oh,
oils, and we don't get
yes.
it from our diet.
Yeah.
That's so important to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia of any sort. And it was that night that he mentioned this product, the Remind or whatever, and how that can really, really help. So that's why I got my mum this.
Brilliant. Fair
She
play.
must be thinking it's for sleep as opposed to. Remember?
That's
Anyway,
brilliant.
listen, there you go. I only seen was a hand coming around the door. She's my little partner.
I love
Come
it.
here. I am going to store this down. Tom, thank you so much for all of your time. I am so sorry now if I haven't got to. I see number 4 is get yourself a teddy. There you go. Get yourself a
Get
teddy.
yourself a
Get
teddy,
yourself a
get
teddy.
yourself a pet.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to sort of just to say to people, there is help there. You can change. You can
Yeah.
absolutely transform your sleep, and it's a very powerful ally for you. And I'd like to sort of say to people out there as well, if people do need help, reach out to me. I do have a sleep course.
Oh, great.
What I'd like
How
to
can we
do,
access that now, Tom? How
yeah.
can we access the sleep
So
course?
it's a 12-week sleep course, and it
Yeah.
goes through about 20 different physical levers that impact sleep. So
Oh,
I've kind of put like my 10 years experience in sleep into one kind of course for people.
brilliant.
And it's kind of housed on an e-learning, and each week there's a week kind of dedicated, and you work through. It gives people a pathway and a framework to fix their sleep, to manage their sleep
Oh,
much
I might
better,
do that myself, Tom,
Yeah.
actually,
So
because, that's my one element I definitely have to look at. My husband's always saying to me, my God, I don't get enough sleep at all. So how do we access it? Is this on your website then?
you can contact me. I can absolutely send you details of that. And
Yeah.
for Maher's Pharmacy and for the 360, I'd like to give you a 36% discount on the normal price of that. So there we go.
36. That's a very unusual percentage
36,
discount.
360, 36. There we go. You
I
see,
get it now. I
you
get it
get
now.
you get it now, right? And
Brilliant.
do you know the very interesting thing? We should be spending 36% of our lives asleep. That's what science tells us.
Ah,
Isn't that just, we've come
that's
full circle now. 360, 36%. You're getting the 36% discount.
uh,
And
that's
yeah, so
brilliant. Well,
yeah, so
thank you for that, Tom.
yeah,
Thank you for that. I didn't know that we're supposed to spend 36% of our life sleeping.
yeah,
Is it
yeah.
so weird how maths plays into,
It
like, I've been
is.
doing the junior cert study with maths with Luca during the last, and just the like triangles and everything being 180 in the triangle and everything 360. It's
Yeah.
a bit mad, isn't it?
It
How
is. It's
maths kind
this.
of rules the
Look, as
world.
I said earlier, nature knows there's some kind of symmetry there. That
There
nature knows.
is,
So,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope people found it useful. A shout out
Oh,
to
for
some
sure
all the
they
lovely
did.
people,
Tom,
our
how do I get
audience.
like, do we have a discount code or something for this
Yeah.
sleep thing? Will you send
Well,
it to me afterwards and
just
I'll share
mention
it?
360. If you mention 360, that's the
360.
discount code 360. Yeah, and just drop me an email and I'll send you details over.
Okay,
So yeah,
great.
thanks to everyone. Thanks to big shout out to Alan, to Declan, who I seen joined there, to Dr. Farah Myden in Donegal, to all those lovely people. Thank you very much and Ona, it's been a pleasure to talk. I could chat all night.
Likewise.
I could talk all night.
Yeah, oh, come here, we could talk all night, but maybe we'll do something in person. We'll go and do some big thing for
Sure,
Pharmacy 360 and bring this all together towards the end or whatever. So you'll
wonderful.
come along to that, won't you,
Oh,
Tom? I'll have to get
I
you
will, of course. I'll be
up
delighted
to
to.
Dublin for that. Yeah. Listen, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for all the useful tips. And you know what? I think the big thing here is take the pressure off ourselves.
Yes,
Take the pressure off
correct.
ourselves and focus on relaxation instead of the sleep, and the sleep will come. Yeah.
Oh,
Would
yeah,
that be fair?
brilliant.
Good
You're spot
night.
on.
See
Thank you
ya.
so much. Have a good
Bye.
night's sleep right
Bye.
now. Take
See
care.
ya.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.